You have made it to Stu and the Nunn, an online radio show that looks to inform, educate, and hopefully make you laugh. Stu and the Nunn is a show focused on national security, policy, politics, and selfless service. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspectives and asking you, the listener, to interact with us on our show chat room via our Facebook page and on Twitter. Like to thank those who make this show possible and allow us to bring it to you. Our show sponsors are Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. That's right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the applause. Yeah. It's happening.
Never should have given me Troy technology.
Right.
It's like not recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Well, it is recorded in front of a live studio audience, actually.
It's recorded in front of a live audience, just not studio.
Well, the world is our studio on social media. Would you disagree? Right? The world is our studio. So here we are, and welcome to April 30th. Toby, the last April's gone. It's over. Tomorrow's May 1st. And who would have thought the time could fly by so fast when you're stuck at home the whole time? But yeah, it does. It seems to be that way. Getting the socials get up here going. And we got a good show for tonight. Thank you. I want a big shout out to our sponsors, Veteran Outdoors, our Commodity Development Group, Outdoor Development Group, right? Is that the right term? Outdoor Development Group?
That is.
Yes.
The Commodity Outdoor Development Group.
Enlisted 9 Fight Company and BooHammer.com. I grabbed my hat. I'm actually wearing my VO hat with my VO shirt. I thought I grabbed an Enlisted 9 hat, but I guess I didn't. So, big shout out to our sponsors who help out here on the show and give us just all kind of stuff. They pay for everything, which is, we don't need anything. So it works out well. But in that case, how you doing, Toby? How you doing down there in the southern studio? What's the weather like?
I'm good. Another beautiful day in central Texas. Can't complain. This is the best time of year for weather here. Everything's blossoming. Everything's green. It's not hot and brown. It's like muggy and green. So it's enjoyable. It's not so humid that, you feel like you're, sipping through air through a straw, but
right.
I love it, man. I'm excited for tonight, though. I want to get right to it. We got an amazing guest on, return guest actually. And Ed McGrath has been on here in the past.
Oh, now you get choppy?
Twice.
Yeah. You got choppy for
Lauren
a second.
Bruner.
Yep.
And, So we want to, get him on to talk about, update, obviously, Lauren's passed, but, we want to see how his legacy continues, and the story of the USS Arizona, as well as the story of some other things that they were involved in. So
That's right.
Let's get him on.
Did you introduce Richard too? You were broken up there.
Oh.
And
then, like every smart man, they bring a smarter man to the show with them. So just like I'm the smart guy, I bring you to the show.
Wait, what?
Ed's a smart man, and he brings Rich to the show.
Oh,
so
there we go.
Not only is Ed with us, Rich is with us as well. So
That's
welcome,
right.
Ed McGrath and Rich.
Yes, welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hey, welcome back to the show. Like Toby said, you guys have been here, or Ed, you had been here before. Richard's our first time getting to meet you, and wish we'd had a chance before. Obviously, we've had you on before about this right here, this awesome book. It stays in my office. Honestly, and I'm not just saying this because you're on here. Toby and I, Toby's written books. We've read lots of books and all that stuff. We've done a lot of things. We have talked about this book more on this show. Hands down, I would say, Toby, it's safe to say probably more about this book than all the other books and authors combined. We would be on a show. We would have a topic come up. We'd get talking about the Arizona. We were talking about Lauren back when he was still with us, and it would just pop into our dialogue, and we'd turn around and grab the book, and we just keep pushing it. I think people thought we were just a second to last to leave infomercial, but that's okay.
Hey, I'm happy to have that moniker.
That's right.
I'm happy to have that moniker.
That's right. But yeah, great to have you back. Obviously, we tried for a long time to get Lauren back on, but it just wasn't possible. And as he was enjoying his final days on this planet and all that kind of stuff, that wasn't always logistically make it work out. We had a big right after he passed, and it hit us hard, and we talked about it for a while. We had a show rededicated talking about him, and I'm glad that we were able to relink up and able to have you on to really talk to all of our people that haven't, maybe new listeners, new viewers that don't know about the story, to bring you on to kind of relive some of that without having Lauren here. With that being said, I would like to open it up and kind of, if you wouldn't mind, give us as summary as you can, and a little bit about the background, how long you've known Lauren, and just the highlights of kind of the path that you guys walked there.
Well, there's so many paths that we walked, but I met Lauren about 12 years ago. It took us about 5 years of my driving out and meeting with him every Thursday morning for him to feel comfortable to start talking to me about his military career, especially about the Arizona and the attack on Pearl Harbor. It took about 6 months, and then when he started talking, I just wrote something the other day. It was like a dam bursting. And he just continued on, and from that point on, he never faltered. Nothing ever bothered him when he was talking to me about his life or about the Arizona. It was remarkable.
I remember us talking about that, and you talked about how you sat, if I remember right, like a little table in his kitchen area. Right?
We called it the kitchen table.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I have that table today.
Do you really? I remember you talking about that. I remember when Lauren was on talking about that, sitting around that table. And in fact, when you read the book, Toby and I talked about this a number of times, you feel like you're sitting at that table in the voice that you guys use. You feel like you're sitting right there, the third or fourth stool, listening to him talk. You can hear his voice and everything else. And, you mentioned, you talked about this before, it took you a while. You didn't walk in and say, hey, I just want to hear all your stories. Obviously, he was not going to open up. Somewhere through that path, you earned that respect and you earned that trust. And a lot of veterans have issues with all of our generations have issues always with opening up, especially with strangers. They don't know, someone they think can't even relate to the experiences they've been in. Those are veterans now and veterans way back when. But somewhere along the path, you gained his trust, and he just said, okay, this, I feel I need to vent. I need to let this out. And he kind of let it all out, didn't he?
Yeah, I think that's a really a good description of it. He just felt comfortable. And I think it took the fact that he finally believed I was going to come back every single Thursday morning to visit him, that sold the deal. In other words, at the time, he had no one else in his life.
Right.
And
right.
he was like the hero next door that everybody waves to when he takes the trash out, but nobody stops to talk to him. So
right.
You really don't know what a great hero he was.
And you in talking to him and having him open up to you, was there somewhere along there that you realized I'm just not giving a guy a chance to maybe vent for the first time? I mean, I don't know. Did he ever say that he ever really talk about this in this level of detail any time previous in his life, or had it stayed closed up that whole time?
Stayed closed up all that time.
Right.
He was married twice, and he had 2 girlfriends, and he outlived all 4 of them. And he never talked to anybody. Okay? And he was a terrific flirt everywhere we'd go. His favorite bar in Hawaii, Smith's Union Bar.
Yep.
He'd flirt with every girl who came in, whether she was a local girl, an all-night girl, or somebody's wife. They all wanted to sit down and have a beer with him.
Right. Yeah. And well, if you read the book, this what I consider, I always tell people the book's broken up in 3 parts. And that first part, I mean, obviously he has an eye for beautiful women. I mean, you see that in the first section. Right. And, it's, and, when you live through, when you live through what he lived through, when most around him didn't, and everything. And then afterwards, I think you could pretty well flirt with whoever you want. I think you're not shy.
You earned it.
Yeah, exactly.
And he enjoyed it. And the girls and the women, they enjoyed sitting with him and talking to him. And, he was a good conversationalist.
Right. Now, Richard, where along the path did you meet Lauren, and when did he start opening up to you and developing the same level of trust?
Sure. So I met actually Ed about a little over 5 years ago. And as I got to know Ed better, he he told me about, Lauren Bruner's Dream Gift to America, which we'll talk about, that kind of project. And it really intrigued me. My grandfather was a Vietnam veteran. And, he would, when I was a kid, he talked to me about World War II, and, growing up, I feel like the schools I went to didn't talk too much about it. And that's something I always wanted to learn more about. So when Ed told me about this project, it really, I really saw it as an opportunity. And it was really something I wanted to do. And, he brought me into this. And that same year, he introduced me to Mr. Bruner. And, it's just been ever since then. I'd go oftentimes when Ed would see Lauren, I'd come with him. And I'm just so proud, and honored that, I've gotten to call him my friend as well. But ever since then, every day, and I've been working for an American hero, and I'm just every day just honored to be part of something so special. So I've been involved with pretty much all the projects, including the book and all the things we have upcoming. So I'm just really honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's got to be a humbling experience to be in the same. It was humbling for us to talk to him on air. It has to be even more humbling to just sit in the same room with him once you know the story, to realize this iconic man that embodies all this history that this nation knows about. Yet vast, is 0.002% maybe have ever been part of is right in front of you, and even less than, I don't know what the numbers would be, to be one of those. One of those few, right? Those 6 or so that I think came across that rope, if I remember right.
Yes,
somewhere
6.
Like that. Yeah. To be one of those people that did that, and he's sitting right in front of you, drinking a cup of coffee, probably opening up his home to you, offering you stuff. Now, Ed, I know you brought him a lot of food. I remember you and your wife, you talked about, you brought him meals all the time, but even that had to be just an honor to be able to do that.
It was an honor. And, he loved my wife, and she loved him. And, so it was an honor. I might just mention that the very first time I went to meet.
Let me just.
Oh, what happened, Toby? Oh, Go ahead, Ed. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. I was going to say the first time I met Lauren, I called him and asked if I might come out to meet him. And he said, sure, come on out. I went out there, and during that first hour, hour and a half meeting, it was just sort of getting to know each other. There were two important things that he told me that morning. One, he told me that he never wanted to talk or answer any questions about the Arizona or the attack on Pearl Harbor. And the other thing is he told me that he was the second to the last to leave the USS Arizona. And as soon as he told me that, I knew
Like,
I
of
was
course I
going to
want
use that somewhere in my life.
Yeah, it's that was a tease, right? Don't ever ask me
Yeah,
about it. By the
like-
way,
Yeah. And so, you know, I lived up to that. And when he turned 96, I gave him his first copy of the book at his birthday party. And I rushed it so I could hand it to him and he could enjoy it. And for all the years that I knew Lauren, my wife and I gave birthday parties for him on his birthday, November 4th. And we would throw it at a restaurant. First one started 18 people, all the people I had introduced Lauren to. And then as the years progressed, I think the last one was about 80 people.
Holy smokes, that's a bar tab.
Yeah, well, yeah, everybody paid their own.
Yeah,
But Lauren always had a beer.
So for the people that are just tuning in and joining us, I just wanted to share that we're talking about Lauren Bruner, who we're always talking about on the show, but a lot of people don't realize that they know his story, and his story has become like super iconic. Unfortunately, a lot of times people don't realize that they're actually watching a story. There was probably 4 months ago, Troy, in the movie theaters,
Yep.
a really popular blockbuster hit. Maybe it was a little bit longer than that, 5 months ago, 6 months ago. The movie Midway.
Yeah.
And the movie Midway, they tell Lauren's story.
Tell the story, Toby, about how you and I both saw it separately.
I unfortunately I don't get the opportunity to go to the movie theaters as much as I used to, and so I was traveling a lot and I wasn't getting a chance to see it. So it got released on iTunes, and I was like, man, it was on my list. So it's the middle of the night, I'm watching it, and I start seeing it, and I'm like, this is Lauren. This is Lauren's story, that I'd read, and I remember joking with Lauren. The last time he was on the show, saying 28 seconds worth of time took 50 to 70 pages worth of prose. That section of the book, it's just so intense. There's so much going on, and it's just so visceral. Everything about it, the sterility of the rope, getting the rope there, and him telling a story about going out and watching the guy doing the tough man smoking boxing competition the night before, and seeing that dude get that rope, superhuman, as he put it. And I'm watching this movie, in big blockbuster movie, I'm like, that's Lauren's story. So it's the middle of the night, so the very first thing I do in the morning is I text Troy. I'm like, bro, you got to check out Midway. And his response was, bro, watched it last night. And we're both like, is it just me, or was that Lauren's story? And they put it in. What an amazing hat tip to an actual hero. And you used the word hero earlier, and sometimes that word is overused, it's misrepresented, but he really is an American treasure. When you think about guys like Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Chuck Yeager, these guys that did these amazing feats that helped us move forward. Nowadays, I guess you would, it'd be like the Elon Musks, or whatever, that like advanced America. That's impressive and they're treasures. But to add heroics, gallantry, valor in the face of that, like doing a rope thing on any day is a precarious thing. It's uncomfortable, it hurts, it's unenjoyable, it's scary. But hey, let's put sharks in the water feeding on humans. Oh, American Ninja Warrior, that's not good enough for them. Hey, let's light that water on fire. Then I'm sorry, like that's not quite enough, Hollywood. Let's let the rope start burning. So you got like the old James Bond suspense of when the rope burns, it falls. That's not even good enough because the boat was on fire, the metal was so hot, their hands were damaged before they could even do it. And like they do this impossible feat during the most impossible of time, making decisions where guys are making decisions, to end their lives, to do anything to get away from it, plummeting, you can watch the 9/11 videos if you want a modern day, concept of the psyche that some of these gentlemen were facing. But to keep your wits, like Rudyard Kipling's poem, if you can keep your wits about you when all around you are losing theirs, like that was Lauren and those guys in, coming out of the weapons towers, working that, and to see that on the big screen and know, like, yes, he deserves that because that's what a real hero is. That's what guys like Troy and I that have seen combat in different capacities and different time spans. Like when you think of hero, when you think of like inner courage and fortitude, and then, like, hey, why don't you go first? Like that's it's different. You don't come across that very often in humanity. And to be able to know that we've all met this man, he was your friend. Like it's a magic dust that gets sprinkled around you. It's hard to explain. Sorry, my words are like
yeah.
No, I agree completely.
So Ed, you knew we were going with it. Were you guys consulted on that? Was that, did they come to you, or did you see that for the first time when you saw it on the screen?
I haven't even seen it yet.
Oh, did you know that? Did you know that scene was in there?
I did. I knew the scene was there.
Okay, all right, yeah.
But we are progressing with our own movie deal about Lauren. It may be on a series on Netflix or Amazon, or who knows, it may be on a larger screen. But Lauren never considered himself a hero. He never wanted to be. He never wanted people to call him that. He was just doing his job. That's all he, But the other thing that you brought up at the beginning of your show is about 2 years ago, I was out at Lauren's and I was having coffee with him, and out of the clear blue, and he was, he had fallen and he was trying to mend at the time, but he turned to me and he told me, he said, if it wasn't for my wife, Marcella, his first wife, and they only were married 13 years before she passed. He said, I came out of the military, I was crazy. He said, I was crazy. And she healed me. I thought that was really an important thing for him to tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it shows the fragility of all of it. I mean, even though he was a hero and did phenomenal things on that whole morning and after, the bottom line is we are still human beings that are fragile, and our psyches and our bodies and everything else, and nothing it's not always a happy ending. You walk out in the sunset and you ride off,
Yeah.
No. And here's, I just want to share a little extra perspective really quickly. Sorry to interrupt, Troy.
That's okay.
Troy and I had the benefit of knowing there was a date and time to which we knew that if we survived, we would go home. Usually it was a year and a half on our tours. And so like we knew that if we made it, like a year and a half, we would get to go home. One of the most brutal and violent military events in the history of the United States of America. He endures, but that wasn't the end of his tour.
Yeah.
Like he continued on. Like there's still another 300 pages in that book. You know, like and that's the difference. It's like, you know, I was watching something with the kids the other day, and you know, there was a line in that where the guy's like, "Hey, I'm scared. I don't know if I want to go back in there." Like Lauren didn't, you know, like hesitate.
In
You know,
fact,
they just
his
could,
buddies that were his guy that was curled up on the ground on the the room they were in, a cupola. I don't know how you'd refer to it, right?
Director.
Right. The director. I mean, he's curled up in a fetal position and burning from the metal, and he's like trying to get him. The guy wouldn't get up. Right. He just obviously. I mean, it was a traumatic event. None of us can even comprehend. And as Toby and I both know, you know, bullets and bombs make heroes into zeros or zeros into heroes. You just don't know until you face it. And I remember in the book, he wasn't shy about it. He didn't gloss it over, not mention the guy or whatever. He was like, you know, in modern times, he'd be like, that guy's a piece of crap. You know, it was pretty much, you know, but he said it much nicer in the book. More diplomacy. But it was like, we don't have time for that. Right. We all have to, the few of us that are left have to get together and stuff. And I think the guy, I don't remember the exact, but I think that guy was one of the ones that got off, but I don't. Yeah, I thought so. But he still called it out. He didn't gloss it over and act like it never happened. It's just, that's a reality of war too. Not everyone.
Yeah, but I mean, not only that, but like the whole thing is like that war, like that was just the beginning. For the you know, like for the Pacific and the American forces, and like they had a long road ahead of them, and they had no idea what that road would be, what those paths would be, what those azimuths would take them on, and you know, like that's the thing is like you know, everyone always like says, hey, you know, tell us about your combat, or you know, the first thing that always comes to mind is like, I knew that if I made it to a certain day, I was good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like those guys, like they had no concept of that.
Well, and the fact that Lauren could have, when it was all said and done, could have walked away and went back to the States and been done with it. But what did he do? Raised his hand again.
No, like
it's like, my boys are on that ship up by the Aleutians. I got to go.
Yeah. and you know, like this isn't about me. It's about America. It's about our way of life. And like even I can't imagine what he'd be thinking about some of the people today, you know, whining about some of the things they're whining about.
Yeah.
Usually he would swear.
I'm sure when you're that age and going through that, you can do that too. Yeah.
Man, I can't wait to be a little bit older. So like people don't look at you silly when you like, you let a cuss word slip out where they're just like, oh, that's just Toby. You know,
he's just old.
He's just old. He's allowed to drop the bombs.
My wife Diane always says, "You picked up all Lauren's bad habits." You mean
flirting with women?
That's the good habit.
So I want to hit on, you guys got a number of projects coming. I want to hit on those a little bit. We got our listeners, our numbers are climbing and people are tuning in. Just so everyone knows, we're talking to Richard Faulkner and Ed McGrath from the Lauren F. Bruner Foundation. Good friends of Lauren F. Bruner before he passed, and you know, always in a memory now. Obviously the book, right? You know, I've held it up a few times and I talk about it, and I'm so blessed and honored to have Lauren having written in this thing to me, and it means so much. But you guys are also, which I think I like to hear a little bit behind this from either or both of you guys. You guys are releasing this year a Japanese edition, translated completely to Japanese. Now I want to say two things before I turn it over to you. One, it's not surprising because in this book, and if people don't know, Lauren profiles different people at the start of almost every chapter, or where he talks about him. He has these pictures that are drawn up, and not all military, some are civilians, and some are Japanese. And you get a sense of respect and not hatred per se toward the Japanese people, even though they went through all this. So I'll say I'm not surprised by this, but I am, and I kind of like to know what the driver was, and what do you think the market is to release this in an all Japanese version?
Well, I'll share part of it, and then I'll turn it over to Richard. The Lauren loved the Japanese people, and most sailors at Pearl Harbor had a difficult time. But he believed that the people of Japan didn't start the war; it was the government. So he blamed the government of Japan, never blamed the people. It didn't help that he was dating a beautiful Japanese girl the night before the attack.
Right.
That always helped.
That's true.
So there's about 300,000 Japanese visitors to Hawaii that go to Pearl Harbor every year. So both our small publishing company and the Pearl Harbor Memorial believe that these people will embrace that book. Also, there's a large market in Japan because of all World War II, the Japanese people identify most, for lots of different reasons, with the attack on Pearl Harbor. And most of those people, especially today, feel very, very bad about what happened. And we have an incredible translator in Japan. Richard, why don't you tell them about Kazue?
Yeah, so we have a translator named Kazue Yashima, and she lives in Tokyo. And so, she's been involved in translating this book into Japanese. We'll send her chapters. And the special thing is she's rewriting it to be understandable and relatable to people living in Japan, not just a direct, Japanese translation, but it's meant to be understood by people in Japan who read the book.
So she's putting it in the right. Because obviously they have different punctuation and different, they don't necessarily have past, present, future, and verbs and this, and they have, it's a different structure, right? All languages do. So I'm assuming she's doing that to it too. So it makes sense grammatically in the Japanese language.
Right, yeah.
And she's a professional translator.
Awesome. And you're right about, right? I've been to Hawaii a number of times, and there's always a large Japanese, Asian in general, but definitely you can tell Japanese tourist industry there. And I've been at the Arizona Memorial where there's been, Japanese people come out there, and you can see they pay their respects. They do this stuff. I mean, I've seen, and I've always been convinced that's not just one or two people, and they're not doing that to put on a show. They wouldn't have to pay that money, come out there and do that. They're not gloating. They're not doing this. They feel it too. So it's I'm assuming that it has the park store there. Have they had inquiries to get it in Japanese? Is that kind of where maybe it came from?
No, it came from Lauren and myself.
Oh, really? You guys just decided
and the Park Services said they definitely want to put it in. So, but it took us about a year of research to find the right translator.
Right.
When you didn't know anything like myself, I thought that maybe Google could do it for me. Not so much.
There's probably some nuance.
Yeah. So with Richard's help, we found Kazue in Tokyo, and she's a wonderful lady. And she truly has gone to a great length to understand, and she's read the book in English. So, she has a great feeling for Lauren.
Right. Did she ever get a chance to meet him before he passed?
She didn't. But what I did is I sent her a CD of the tour that Lauren narrated and that we're producing this year as well. And she listened to that. Richard did all the editing on it. It's spectacular. Where can you go someplace that important and have a survivor of the Arizona take you on a tour of his ship? It's like sitting, just like you said, it's like sitting around his kitchen table.
Right. And you can hear the one you sent Toby and I, a couple years ago. I mean, you can hear the emotion in Lauren's voice as he narrates it. I mean, it's not just you see some of those things where you go into museums and tours and you put a headset on, and, even at the 9/11 memorial now, I mean, I go there and they're like, this is what you're looking at, this, and it's very stoic and it's very unemotional. I mean, they're just kind of presenting facts. Lauren is, like you said, it's almost like he's got you by the hand and he's walking you and saying, look right there. See what you right there? That thing right there is the fourth turret. It's this. It's that. It's. I mean, it's emotional just listening to it.
Right. Yep. Exactly right. And he cries in it about 6 times. You hear him actually break down cry.
Yeah. Toby, you got something?
Yeah. So one of the things that I want to talk about the book real quick, because we're talking about sitting around the kitchen table and learning, and Lauren telling the story. One of the things, for a listening audience, Troy, hold the book up again so people can see it. The one of the things that's so masterful about this book isn't just his story, but it is very hard, and I'm using the word masterful because it is hard to take somebody's words and turn it into prose from their perspective, and not just one-on-one, but now we had there were 3 people involved in this project, and y'all were able to get his story seamlessly from his mouth to the pages. And there's a lot of books of any genre, but primarily like when you look at biographies and stuff like that, when someone brings in a ghost writer or a supplementary writer, complementary writer, they do not capture it the way you guys did. And I know I've said this to you guys before, but I got to say it again on the air again. So people, you got to get this book, because you masterfully were able to take his dining room conversation and make it a beautiful piece of prose in storytelling. Because you told his story with his emotion, and that's hard to do, first person, third person, first person, third person. It is tough to do. And I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of kudos, because, sometimes we forget to get people's stories. It takes talent, it takes ability, it takes skill and craft to get it. And, the reason we have this story is because ability, skills, and craft. So I want to make sure you guys get
thank you.
Acknowledged for that as well.
I want to highlight too, you're not just opening it up to, the book Awesome is a phenomenal read. We talked about it, and will continue forever, I think. And you're opening it up to the Japanese people, but now you're working on a graphic novel, right? Almost like a comic book style graphic.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that, where that idea came from, and where you're going with that, with the Ghost of the USS Arizona?
Well, it all comes back to Lauren's story, and that he gave to me, and then I share a little bit of it in the second to the last leave. But I had in the back of my mind, about doing a book for young adults, but for anybody who believes in the hereafter. And it was really my wife Diane, who was closest to Lauren after myself, that said, and she's a retired designer. And, I have no hair, but I was pulling out my hair trying to figure out whether I wanted to do this or not do this book, another book on Lauren. And she said, well, let me give it a try. And so I would sit with her and we would write out a first draft. And then she took it from there and she wrote the whole book. And it took about a year for us to do. And it tells the story of Lauren and Billy, how they met in high school, how they came together on the Arizona, and how the last time Lauren saw Billy, Lauren was climbing the ladders up to the main mast during the attack, and Billy was running like hell along the main deck, jumping over dead sailors, holding a fire axe on his way down to the Black Powder magazine, which he was in charge of. But he didn't have the keys because they were in port, and he couldn't find the captain who was supposed to give him the keys. So we met an ensign, and the ensign said, "Sailor, bust the gosh damn lock." And so he got down there. He was down there for about 5 minutes, and the bomb exploded and dropped absolutely right into his lap.
Right.
And he was disintegrated. Lauren left, and Lauren saw his ghost twice after that. Once aboard the Arizona when Lauren was healing, but could still see the wreckage from the hospital where he was. And once on New Year's Eve, 1942, when Lauren told me that Billy came to his bedside.
These are things that they're not talked about in the book, that have never really been public.
No, that's never been talked about.
Never been public before.
No.
So Lauren told. So this graphic novel is it fiction kind of mixed in? Is it just the story of just them two with the art and with the imagery, or?
No, it's, well, how would you say that, Richard? I mean, it's a regular book. What my wife and I decided was to use more comic book art out of the 50s.
Gotcha.
That's what we did.
Okay.
So we could pull people into it.
Got you.
But
it's about his and Billy's friendship all the way from high school into the Arizona, and then are the two times where he saw Billy's ghost after where he saw Billy, that's captured in the book also.
That is true. And not only that, but he believed that Billy helped him across the line. Okay? As he was going across the line, Lauren, 15 feet from the vessel, Lauren was slipping.
Yeah.
Okay? And he heard Billy, or someone, he told me, said, "Throw your leg up." Probably he said, "Throw your leg up, you dummy, and take some of the weight off your burnt hands." And so Lauren did that, and he was able to cross the rest of the line. The only part that may be fiction, although I don't believe it is Lauren, the book starts when Lauren is actually having a meeting with Billy because he's so nervous about going to see Billy's family that morning and telling them how Billy died. So maybe he actually saw Billy that morning, but Lauren believes that Billy gave him the strength to go see his mother and father and his brothers and sisters.
Because all they knew was the telegram or whatever they got, and
that was
the
all.
Notice and stuff, right? So he went and followed up with him afterwards. Yeah,
he did. He went out to the man farm, and he sat around. He cried with them on the. Now this is the same kitchen table on the man farm that Lauren through high school would go and spend the weekends with Billy.
Right.
And he would have dinner around that same table. So it was a very emotional thing for him.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, Toby hit on a little bit ago. We talked about the movie Midway, but they kind of show it. They don't do it justice in the movie, but when you read the book, when you read about his hands being burnt almost pretty much to the bone, the pain on his big gnarly rope that ties ships to docks and stuff like that. And it doesn't surprise me, right, that the hands were going to. I mean, it's almost, the pain had to be unfathomable that he was going through him, and to have something tell him to throw his leg over, whether it was divine intervention in God, or whether it was Billy, one more to help his buddy out. Whatever it was miraculous that all 6 of those guys made it across there. And if people don't know, go read the book. But no, that's awesome. I can't wait to see that. That sounds like a phenomenal. I mean, I see the cover art and got that, and I was trying to understand what that is about. But the Ghost of Arizona, what a proper name for that.
Yeah, it's a great book, and it'll be out before Christmas.
So we've talked a little bit about the foundation. We haven't really dived into, for those that are tuning in, and again, more keep tuning in now. We're talking to Richard Faulkner and Ed McGrath from the Lauren F. Bruner Foundation. Can you talk a little bit about what the foundation's mission is? What are you guys doing now that Lauren has passed? What are the marching orders you're keeping on, and what are you guys aiming towards?
Well, in 2015, Lauren and I decided that as we were just finishing the book, we wanted to do something to honor the crew of the Arizona for future generations, which is the reason we started the foundation. And that's the number one mission statement. The other parts of the mission statement are to help and honor all servicemen and women of every military branch. And that's what we're doing. Our end goal is still to build a major museum in Hawaii.
Oh, really? About the Arizona and all its crew? Or?
Well, it's about World War II and the USS Arizona. Yeah, we're working with the Navy and the National, what is it, Richard Sam Cox, Admiral Cox?
Oh, the Naval History and Heritage Command.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you trying to like identify space to have it and all that? Are you guys put on Ford Island or?
No, we know the space we want for it. People think I'm crazier than other people think I am. But the thing is, you know, everything's got to be timed, and we're working right now with the Navy to create a program on how to finance it.
Okay.
So,
and
only God knows.
Right. You know, one thing you talked about honoring, you know, you guys talked about when you wrapped up the book, honoring all the crew members. I mean, you get that when you read the book, right? You get that when he talks about all these other people, and you also get it when you know that he recorded this, you know, all the audio to give people a tour. I mean, there's no doubt we have survivor's guilt today in modern wars from a soldier going out and having even one person get killed or something. Much less, I can't even imagine the survivor's guilt that Lauren, whether he ever admitted he had it or not, but you know the guilt he had, and how was he the one that walked off that, you know, or pretty much crawled off that ship? How did so many others, Billy and so many others, why was he spared, and that kind of stuff? And it sounds like from when I've read the book and everything else knowing he's done, he took all that and channeled that into that pain or anger, whatever, you know, morphed into to putting it to something positive. Did he ever talk about that?
He did, almost exactly like you just described. He thought he was damn lucky. And there were, 325 survivors, Richard?
I think 335.
335 survivors out of a crew of 1,512. But only 93 were on the ship that morning.
That's right.
So Lauren was the second to the last to leave of the 93.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know where I was going. I was going to tell you something else, but Lauren is the 44th and the last crew member to return to the ship. There will never be another crew member to be interned back on the ship.
Yeah, because there's only 2 more surviving, right?
Yeah, and they're going to be buried with their families on the mainland,
right.
Which is...
You know, there's one of the prints that you sent Toby and I'm looking at it right now. I've got all 4 in my office. Is the one I think it has the last dozen signatures on it, 10 or 12 signatures of the last 10 or 12 survivors, right? And to know that only 2 of those are left, and you know, we were talking about it before the show, right? How fitting that Lauren may have been the second to the last to leave, but he was the last to return. Richard, you know, from your perspective, you know, you've the few years you've known Lauren, and just obviously you put probably hours and hours of research into this and everything else. You were there when Lauren got to return back. You know, when we had Lauren on, we talked about this. We talked about he'd already had it planned. We know about Ed. We've talked about it too, and he talked about he had everything laid out. He knew where he was going to do. I mean, how was it to sit there and witness that? I mean, to sit those divers to take that box and go down and know that was the last time.
I mean, to me, it was completely indescribable. I mean, it was surreal, and you know, because of the fact that you know, he was my friend, it just I felt a lot of emotions all at once. But I mean, it was just an incredible experience seeing him being taken, you know, underwater by these divers and being returned right to where he was fighting, you know, all those years ago. So,
you know, he started as a crew member on the Arizona on Deck Force 4 as an apprentice seaman or a seaman first class. And that's where he returned to Gun Turret 4, which is where he's interned.
Yeah, and that's the last one they're doing. Never another. Now, I know they still go down, they check it for, you know, different things like that for maintenance and stuff, but that whole process. Now, in the release on that, if I remember right, Army divers were actually the last ones to place him, right? Navy handed him off to Army.
That is true.
And so he kind of passed. Sorry, you know, never met him, but it still gets to me. It got to me, you know, before, but you know, when you think of everyone that was lost there, all branches, to have his final resting, not just get, monopolized, probably not the best word, by one, but pass from branch to branch, to have more of a collective representation of all the military to that is just, it's got to be awesome too. I mean,
Yeah, I totally agree. It's very emotional.
yeah.
It started at 4 p.m. and it ended at 8 o'clock at night. So we went from afternoon to twilight to darkness on the memorial.
Wow. That had to be something. Now, Richard, you videoed a lot of this, right? You did a lot of the videography of that?
Yeah. So I was able to videograph pretty much the whole thing, and I, including the actual Lauren being brought underwater. And I'm still sorting through the video that I did take of it, but yeah.
Yeah. Now, to kind of go into something else, you guys got some other projects going on. What else do you guys have going on? It's more than just a museum. You guys got the hula project. You guys you guys are not slowing down.
Well, we're trying not to, but we feel blessed in the fact that we've come a long way as far as Lauren's dream gift to America, which is we intend to be able to research and then have a portrait drawing of every crew member, 1,512, on the Arizona the morning of 7 December. And that's coming along really well. We're looking for funding now for major grants throughout the country. And we've had some help from, some major grants already. So our research has already begun. We have a 3-year plan. And by the end of 3 years, we would hope that the majority of portraits, biographies, would be available to people on touch-tone kiosks at the memorial.
Oh, cool.
Now,
So as an example, if you're from Texas, you could go
yes.
You could
Yes.
go to the memorial park just before you get on, and you could look up all the sailors on the Arizona from Texas. And then if you entered your zip code there, it will tell you which sailor lives closest to your house.
Oh, wow.
And then you'll be able to see what he looked like.
How cool is that?
A way to honor each one, to put that personal touch.
What legacy?
Yeah, to put that personal touch with every visitor that comes there, right? To be able to sit there and
because you've been there before. The shrine wall is really fantastic, but you just see the name.
It's a lot of names. Yeah, you're just
a lot of names, and you'd like to know who that person was or who was from my state. Well, the crew members were from every single state. We had crew members of the Arizona.
Right. So you'll be able to get that personal connection. So when you take that ride out there and you step onto that memorial and you look up at that wall, it's not just a granite wall. It's like, oh, it's a lot of names. It's like there's John so-and-so or there's Billy so-and-so or whatever. You know? Yeah. That's what an awesome idea to be able to do. I don't think I've ever seen, anything like that short of, I'm trying to think now, the book at the Vietnam Wall. I don't think it even has that. It just has the name and the date and what panel they're on, but you don't know the connection to your locale.
Yeah. Same with Arlington. It's just a geographical locator for Arlington. Like it doesn't tell you anything about, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Technology.
That technology, that's what it boils down to. Yeah. And great portrait artists.
You can't deny that. Like that's one of the neat things of, the people that take the time and their talents to preserve the legacy of the most deserving of Americans.
And you're doing more than just that. Talk about, you guys are looking at starting up a site. You're going to be starting up a blog. You're going to be putting some stuff. What are you guys planning to do with that, and how you're reaching out to folks?
Sure. So we're looking at basically expanding upon our existing website, and basically we're trying to, because our mission is to honor the crew of USS Arizona for future generations. And a big part of that is, not only educating, but, sharing, not only the story of Lauren, but others on the Arizona and that kind of thing. So what we're trying to do is, I guess it would start off with almost like a blog, and we could, you know, feature original content relating probably mostly to USS Arizona. We could also expand it to World War II or the military in general.
World War One, all wars.
Right, right. And basically, not aggregate, but I guess we would be able to, at least weekly maybe, have, someone like you, Troy, or someone add this content, right? So, I guess in other words, we were thinking of maybe sharing a story of Lauren every week, or even taking a little, we have writings of Lauren in his own handwriting, sharing that, or a little audio snippet. But even create an opportunity for other people, of other wars and that kind of thing, to bring their own content to the table. And I guess the end goal is to create engagement, right? We want to make the story of Lauren Bruner, we want to make the story of the attack on Pearl Harbor, we want to make it more engaging, and we want to draw in all kinds of people, maybe people who wouldn't even be, who normally wouldn't read much about, military history, that kind of thing.
Right.
But we want to make something that's, really spread the story and spread, our message and our mission,
Right. No, that's awesome. That's phenomenal. You guys aren't stopping. You're not slowing down for sure. Hey, you guys have given us a lot tonight in this hour, and we want to be respectful of your time and everything. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to highlight on with our listeners and viewers? You want to make sure they're aware of or they know about?
I think you've covered it completely. Thank you for having us on.
Thank you.
Where can they go give you money?
Well, all you got to do is look at the website. I think you have it there.
Yeah,
So
you got it up, I think.
USSAZ.org.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Richard.
Yep. So our website, USSAZ.org. That's our foundation's website. And so, you can make, as an individual or a company, you can make a donation. But every sale of our book, whether it's directly through us or through Amazon, that's a donation to us. So all those proceeds goes towards our vision and helps us continue these projects.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you guys are in our closings. We always tout our favorite nonprofits, and you guys have been on there ever since we first met you guys and learned about it. It is every scrolling credit at the end of every show, and for a reason, right? We know a lot of people, we know a lot of nonprofits. We have a handful on there, and Lauren F. Bruner Foundation has always been one of them. So, we are number one fans. I think it's safe to say we always have been, and we're proud to wear that badge too. But hey, well, thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys check out USSAZ.org, Lauren F. Bruner Foundation. For sure, get the book. We pushed it before. We told people, get them while you can get them signed. I don't know if you have any more that are still signed, but
we still have some signed. I was smart enough to have Lauren. I would take over inside title pages, and that's how he would sign it.
Yeah. Well, that was the right thing to do. So people jump on them while you can, because when they run out, that's it. Right? There are no more. Oh.
Nope.
Well, we lost. Okay, here we go. All right. Well, hey, thanks so much, Richard. Thank you so much, Ed. Good talking to you again. See you guys, and stay in touch. As always, back on in one.
Anytime. Thank you so
much.
much.
Thank you, guys. You guys have a good night.
All
right. There we go, everybody. Richard Faulkner and Mr. Ed McGrath. My computer's acting up a little bit here, so give me just a second. Okay. Let me tell you what I got going on here.
Yeah, so no, it was great to have Ed and Rich on. I've been very lucky to sit here and not have to talk as much because Lauren was a very special guy, giving guy, and we'd only exchange emails with him through Ed, and you and I both got the most amazing packages sent to our house. And like those packages, there, it was not a small gesture, like,
No.
and like to know, like, I don't know, like it's tough because, and he invited us to like while he was alive, not in a creepy way, but actually in like this super cool way. He's like, I'm having a wake at the Smithsonian Bar, and, and I want you guys to be there, get drunk, and to broadcast from my wake.
Yeah.
And you know, and I remember at the time, like, I accept your terms. The but when it all went down, it
No.
just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah, it was. It didn't work
To
out.
get
Not that.
to Hawaii to be part of it, but it's it's neat to have Ed back on to see that they're continuing like this mission. They're doing great stuff with it, and proud of them. Lauren F. Bruner, the USS Arizona.org. It's what's up. Like, we cannot forget what happened to America and how America answers, especially in today's day and age. Like, we need to remember, when something happens to America, America answers, and this is what we do.
Right. Right. For sure. No, it's yeah, I think we both know we can predict what was. My machine got very choppy there, but it was I remember when we got that invite. I remember talking to him like, hey, Lauren wants us to come out and cover his wake. When he was like, how are we gonna think that? We've had a lot of crazy we've had a lot of offers and crazy requests, but that was right up there with and like I say, it was we were, oh crap, hold on. All right. My video, my stuff is all messed up. I'm trying to get your stuff fixed here, and I'm not having a good time.
No, I think that was a great show. This was our 201st episode, and glad we were able to have him on. I think we'll save the other topics for another day, and I think next Thursday, if all goes according to plan, we're gonna have a good guest or guests, and contemporary, and it'll be a good political discussion. And I think we'll just